Hello and welcome to this video. Today I thought we can take a look at my WR8 and some performance upgrades that I've done to it. It might not seem that significant to start with, but at times it can really make all of the difference. I'm talking of course about the steering and how to avoid blockages. And even though you might not have this particular car yourself, it can still be relevant because you might have a very similar design. So let's use this one as an example and let's get started. This is what the steering setup looks like on the WR8. The servo is moving this link back and forth, and then the bell cranks are transferring that motion to left and right. Underneath the prop shaft there is a link connecting the left and right bell cranks, and that one travels quite close to the chassis. If we look at it from a different angle, we can also see that the gearbox is quite close to this link. So yeah, it's a lot of tight spaces around it, and this is where I think a lot of the blockages occur. More specific to the WR8 is this place. You can see the gap completely opening and closing as you turn left to right. Obviously, if you get something here that takes up just a minimal amount of space, it's going to cause less than full throw of the steering. So what I found when driving in snow was that each time you turn to the right, the tire is scooping up snow into this problem area. And then when you turn to the left, it gets compacted, and for each repetition, you will have a growing chunk of snow, really hard packed, that will limit your steering throw to the left more and more. And eventually you can only go straight or to the right. Now let's switch to one of my modded chassis and see what changes I've made. So the servo I've swapped for a low profile one. This means that it can be stood upright, although I had to 3D print my own bracket for it. But yeah, I have a printer, so that's okay. The link connecting the servo with the bell crank system is now put in the center of the car, quite close to the drive shaft, but still more protected from the snow than sitting in the wheel arch. With the aluminium bell cranks, I was able to just flip them upside down to achieve this. With plastic ones, we'll take a closer look later because I have that in another car, and then you will have to do some grinding as well. The link connecting the left and right bell cranks is a bit difficult to see in this angle, but no worries, we will take a closer look later. The result of this mod is that we have a lot of free space here, and even if there's some buildup, it doesn't really matter because we're not depending on that space. The steering system can work anyway. We have moved the critical area away from the place where it's likely to have buildup. I've been running with this solution for about 10 years, and it wasn't until last week, I think, when I had a stone jump into here in the center close to the drivetrain. Other than that, it's been working really good, I think. As for the Centerlink, I've made this foam piece. It fills up the gaps, so there is no possibility for a stone to enter between the link and the gearbox because that space is already taken by the foam. Because the foam is flexible, it can fill the gaps effectively and not cause too much resistance. In the side view, you can see that I had to use a distance to get the center link to pass underneath the prop shaft. This is because when flipping the bell cranks, I also had to raise them a bit to get the servo link to line up a bit better. Now let's take a look at my other chassis. This is the one I'm making all the FPV driving videos with, so you can see there are a few adaptations for that. But let's focus on the steering. These foam bits I'm removing now are parts of a sleeping mat. I'm using them to keep stuff from bouncing around in the wheel arches, going maybe from the wheel to the chassis screen to the bonnet and then ending up on the lower arm. A stone like this might not only hinder steering, but could possibly also rub against the driveshaft boot, which is really bad. The difference of this chassis compared to the previous one that I showed you is that this one is using a standard size servo with an angled bracket. It's also using plastic bell cranks, not the standard ones, but you can actually find an HPI part number 101214, which is used on the Nitro version that has servo on the left instead. I've added a bit of flexibility to the chassis screen by using this tape. It allows the bell crank system to move freely left to right and still offers some protection. And same as before, there's a lot of free space in the center of the chassis between the prop shaft, the servo, and the bell crank system, making a jam here more unlikely. I also have the foam piece underneath the center link to keep rocks out from the gap between the link and the gearbox. From this angle, you can also see that I've swapped the original center link to an aluminium one. This one has ball bearings inside to minimize the slop and also make it possible to maintain in a good way, keeping the slop low at all times. As mentioned earlier, you have to do some grinding on the bell crank because the clearance is very narrow to the center prop shaft. This picture is actually showing my buddy's car. We did a similar mod to his, but in this case we used the stock servo bracket. We just swapped the orientation and drilled 2 new holes, as you can see here. So that's a few ways how you can modify the steering of the WR8, ranging from making your own parts to just getting stuff off the shelf and putting it in, maybe reorienting, maybe doing some grinding or adjustment. But yeah, different levels of complexity. Before we wrap it up, let's just have a quick summary. I think most importantly, make sure that there is a lot of free space around the moving parts. This way it's less chance of something getting caught between them. If this is not possible, then of course you can try with the foam or to put something in the already small gap that makes it impossible for stones or other stuff to get in there, but is still flexible enough to not cause any resistance. So I think that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. Maybe you can use some of the ideas on your own car. Maybe you have the same car, maybe you have some other car, I don't know. If you have some questions, just put them in the comment box below and I'll try to answer. Yeah, thanks for watching and see you next time.